We are so excited to have Kayla Mendez here. And it's been a little while in the works, but it finally kind of came together. And, you know, originally I was reminded of Kayla's work from our previous guest artist, Emily Nathan, who is a good friend of mine, who I've known for years and years and years. And, you know, what I wanted in getting the different guest artists that we have is we have like mature artists who've been working for years and years and years. And, you know, Kayla just seemed like a very contemporary force of nature whose work seemed to transcend, you know, all these different genres. And as, you know, she and I were talking a little bit to put this together, I remember I said to Kayla, I was like, well, what are you? Are you a fashion photographer, or a wedding photographer, or like a fine art photographer? And she's like, it's really all of this. And it kind of morphs and bends. And I kind of steer the way I define myself based on who I'm talking to and what market I'm working in. And she had a lot to say about how that has served her. And, you know, she had an idea that, oh, we all introduce ourselves in this class. And I think, you know, rather than go around, let's everyone put an introduction to themselves into the chat. And, you know, Shane had that idea and started this off where he says, hey, yo, I mostly focus on fine art portraiture. For my final, I'm working on a double-sided book. So introduce a little bit about what you're working on, because everybody's projects are so diverse. And I think she'll be able to kind of get a feel for what everyone is up to. So Kayla is a wonderful speaker. And what I would say is usually we want people's questions in the chat, but let's see how this goes here. If you have something you want to bring up in class, just bring it up, you know, also. If you don't, you know, you can put it in the chat, but if you want to interrupt, try. And I think, you know, this is going to be a good conversation today. Feel free to bring that up. Welcome, Kayla Mendez. Thank you, Kayla.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such an awesome group. I'm really excited. And just like Timothy said, like you can interrupt me, you can pause and ask questions. This is the perfect time for you to pick my brain on anything from my work, my business practices, and my approach and my vision. So I'm really here for you guys and to answer any questions that you may have. And I guess I can go ahead and get started. Why
don't you show your work? But I'm always interested in what people have done that day, you know, today, like snapshot into your day. Can you tell us what you were working on before you carved out the time for this?
For sure. So I have actually been in a deep editing hole for the last couple of days. I am launching my first ever course in partnership with Moodelier. They are an amazing educational like resource company, and they also create products that you can use in your still lives and in your product photography. They're really unique 3D shapes. I don't have any of the work pictured here, but if you go to my Instagram, it's all of my most recent work using their kind of shapes. Super cool. I think they're really like needed in the marketplace. But anyway, I'm working on a portfolio building class actually, but it also teaches you how to build your portfolio in a way that honors your own artistic voice and what you actually do with that portfolio and how to actually implement that portfolio into your marketing via content marketing, because that's kind of my specialty, how to use Instagram, how to use social media networks to really promote yourself and position yourself in the industry to stand out and attract yourself paying clients. And that's my elevator pitch.
Oh, that sounds like a perfect thing for you. How did you guys get together? I'm just curious.
Who are you referring me to getting together with?
The place who is having you do this this workshop or this online class.
Yeah, the course. So it's in partnership with 7 other creators. So I'm like when you like purchase my course, you also get access to like 6 other lessons from amazing photographers that I admire. And we connected via Instagram. Like you will like pretty much a lot of clients, and Instagram is the #1 driver of traffic to my business. So that's how I build and like nurture my relationships.
Wow, that's very cool. No, you do use that really well. You know, you're very accessible and set out a very kind of consistent kind of message, you know, with everything. Which also seems kind of playful and fun at the same time, you know. Doesn't seem like you take it too seriously, but then the photography is very, very serious, you know?
Yeah. I try to be approachable.
It has that feeling for sure. You know, as we get into this though, I'm wondering about your beginnings in photography. Like, when did you know this was a path you wanted to be on?
So my story is unique. I'm only, so just to give you like a background of my like age context in life, I am 24 years old, and I have been doing photography for 4 years now. And I picked up the camera when I was in college. I was in the middle of getting my biochemistry degree. I thought I was going to be a scientist. I was working in a lab, doing scientific experiments on rats. That was my day. Like literally, I would go into the lab and spend hours there. And then it wasn't until a summer break where I traveled to India. I lived in India for 2 months. And for some reason, they chose me as the designated photographer for that kind of trip that we did, that 2 month kind of trip. And like, honestly, I fell in love with it. I was mind blown that I could connect with people because I've always loved people. And I could tell stories this way. And I'm like, this is completely mind blowing to me. So ever since I came back from that trip, I was like, okay, I'm going to see if I can do photography. And I just never stopped like shooting, posting my work on Instagram. And then it just was like a snowball effect. And here I am today. Truly, that is how it started. And there's a lot of other things I can kind of sprinkle in there too. Like I've always been a creative child, but I kind of stopped that because I thought I had to, have a financially stable job. I thought that's what my family wanted. So there's like a lot of other stuff like that. So it all ties together, but that's like my story in a nutshell.
Oh, that's a great story. No, that's absolutely. So, I mean, that's relatively late in life. You know what I mean? Like typically we meet someone who is a photographer and they're like, I got into it when I was 14 and I always wanted to do it. And it's always like a one-track thing, So as a kid you were creative, but it was never photography.
It was actually, so it's so funny because I look back on my entire life and I'm trying to analyze how, this even happened because I even though I just picked up the camera, maybe 4 years ago, I've always been creative since I was a child, like those kinds of things, just those inclinations never go away. Like I would always love art class and stuff like that. But like growing up in an immigrant family, I think they really do push you to have that financial stability in a career type job. Like, for example, my grandmother still calls me Dr. Kayla till this day because I have the biochemistry degree. I did graduate with that. But that's just kind of like a funny little aside. But I just never gave myself the permission until like after college to really explore that kind of that part of myself. But I did theater, I did music, I drew, I did art and all that good stuff, but I never let myself really dream until one day I was like, I'm risking it all. And I just literally graduated college and I jumped straight into full-time freelancing because I was like, I'm just going to see, let's just try, because if not now, then when?
Oh, that's great. That's a beautiful story. Absolutely. I'll be quiet and let you kind of lead this and you can kind of share some work with us.
Okay. Well, I'm so excited to dive into my portfolio. I just presented my portfolio to a bunch of other people, so this presentation is pretty fresh. But I'm actually going to start with this kind of title image right here because this image I created like 2 years ago when I was kind of just starting getting really serious, which I guess doesn't feel like that long ago. But I shot this with my Canon Rebel T3i and like a crappy lens, like literally on the side of a street. Like this is natural light. Like there is nothing fancy about this, but it is one of my most, it's the work that really, I think represents my why as a photographer. It represents what I stand for as far as, having diversity being very central to my work, and my why I'm doing this. So I love starting off with this image because it's it's not a high production value, but it's still, the meaning is there and it resonates with a lot of people. So love starting there. Ooh,
that's beautiful.
Let me move you guys up top so I can play around. Okay, perfect. And so this is kind of my travel slide. So this is where I usually tell people about my traveling background and how I got started into photography was really when I started traveling. And I had a camera with me in India and I started taking photos. But since then, I've been able to actually travel all over the world to take photos for amazing brands that I love. So this image right here is from Playa Viva, resort in Mexico. And this was actually the project that I worked on where I got flown out to Mexico with a bunch of other creatives, and we got to capture pictures of this hotel. And that is how I connected with Emily, who's the founder of Tiny Atlas Quarterly. And she chose this image out of the slew of other creators, and she really loved it. And she used it as the title, the keystone image on Tiny Atlas Quarterly, and we've been in great connections ever since. So that's a cool little aside there. It's from this image in this project.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, and it also has that feeling that I identify with Emily's brand, which is like, it's beautiful but very, very real, and it's not overproduced and it's not fake. It's just like feels like what it would be kind of like if, you know, you were there and waited for the light to get nice, you know.
Yeah, I love that shot.
I do love that.
What else? Oh, this image right here was created for an eyewear campaign that I did in Bali, Indonesia. Awesome project. They actually, just a quick aside, they actually wanted me to shoot in Los Angeles. I was already going to be in Bali, so I pitched to them. I was like, hey, I'm actually going to be in Bali for the shoot dates. Do you want to, you know, give me some sunglasses and let me shoot for you in Bali? And they were like, yeah, we'll pay you to do it too. So just a side note that you can do that, because I think, you know, as photographers, we're allowed to pitch ourselves. Anyway, and this was from a photography retreat that I led in Sicily last year. So I taught a little group there, and that was an awesome experience. But I just use this as kind of a, I just love traveling.
Yeah.
So let's keep going. And then another hallmark cornerstone of my work is romanticism. If you go on my Instagram, it has a lot of my romantic like feeling. I try to capture motion in a really unique way. And I kind of think it stems back from a lot of my, you know, the art classes I was taught as a child. Like I was always into that impressionist style of painting, that very romantic kind of ethereal feel. So all of those things that I learned in art school, I like use in my photos without really even knowing, except, you know, art class when I was in like 5th grade, right?
Oh, interesting. You know, that romanticism does come through in a lot of your work, and it's almost like where there's nudity, but it's never sexualized. It's always like about like being in the body or something like that. I always admired that and thought, and you know, wondered where that came from. Do you have influences that were photographers, or is it really all art?
I definitely have a lot of photographers that I admire. And I think I really do pull a lot of different, I like actually have like kind of a running list of photographers that I'm like, I want to create the kind of work that they're creating, or like, I want to work for the brands that they're creating. And I kind of will study them and like pick out things that I like. And some of them definitely do. I don't know if you're familiar with Nina Benatti. She's a fashion photographer in Milan, and she shoots for Dolce & Gabbana and all this good stuff, but her work is really romantic. And I pull some of my influences from her. I don't know if you're familiar with her work. She's very modern.
So she's a contemporary photographer working now.
Contemporary. Very contemporary. Yeah, a lot of my influences are photographers that are current and doing and producing work right now. Any other questions? I'll actually open it up. We're just getting started though.
Yeah, and feel free to chime in here, everyone. You know, there's going to be just different chunks to this. We're always open to questions.
Yeah, and also, sorry, are you gonna say something?
I was just going to say, yeah, we can move forward.
Okay, perfect. Well, I was going to say this was actually kind of includes more of my bridal, kind of my love for bridal fashion, which was kind of I did this shoot. This was actually a portfolio building shoot that I did because I would eventually love to shoot for like wedding, like bridal fashion campaigns and stuff like that. And I wanted to approach the wedding industry from my lens. And so this was the shoot that I felt really captured that. Very, very true to my, you know, romantic, ethereal kind of leanings. And so this project, yeah, go ahead.
A question I have in terms of that, like as you're trying to define yourself in the marketplace, you know, a lot of times the students talk about like they think a job will define them. And then as a school, we kind of encourage them that, no, you really define yourself by the things you create yourself, to show like how much you can truly do when you have total control. And how did you make the images that you feel really kind of defined the look that you have?
Most of all the images that I think really represent who I am as a photographer were all portfolio building shoots that were obviously unpaid and not paid by any client. And that's the most important thing, right? Is because when you have a client working with you on set, you're always trying to fulfill their vision. And there's that pressure to meet those deliverables, all that good stuff. You know, you want to make the client happy. So that's why it's so important to like do personal test work, because those are going to be the big needle movers in your career for like the rest of your career as a photographer. You should never stop building your portfolio. Like just, and allowing yourself to just create for the reason why you started creating, because that's often how the times when you're going to create the work that really soars, that really stands out to that one client, that just resonates with, like, I want people to hire me based off of my portfolio building work. That's why a lot of my commissioned work does not live on my Instagram. It lives on my website because I'm creating for someone else, you know? So I want to I use Instagram as a way to kind of manifest the kind of clients that I want to have through building my portfolio and doing that portfolio building work, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and then I'm wondering, do you have a core group of people like stylists that you like working with, or how do you handle that stuff?
So it's different. So I'm actually in flux. So when I was in South Florida, I had a few different key people, but now I'm in Orlando, Florida, which the market is a little weird here. So I don't really have a good group in Orlando quite yet. I do have a core, like a small group. I'm very selective about who I work with because I think, you know, it's good to have your tribe. But when I get to LA, I definitely will. And that's also what's the point of doing portfolio building work. It's your time to network and connect with other creatives to see if you guys work well on a vision together, and you guys, you know, complement the vision, and you guys push yourselves to create even better work. So right now I have a small tribe, but it's going to grow once I relocate to LA.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I think also a message, you know, I've always thought was inspiring was, you know, when you do form your kind of teams, or this is the way at least I viewed it, you can all kind of grow together, and you know, you're building your careers together, and you're building your collective vision together, you know. So I'm a big believer in that, for sure. This is really beautiful. Is this all Florida here?
This is all Florida. This was a campaign for Norte Women. She is a sustainable fashion brand in Miami. So I actually went to Miami to shoot this. And I would definitely say she was a dream client that I was able to manifest from all the portfolio building work that I created. Because like I would have created this on my own, and she wanted this exact thing that I would have created by myself. So this was such a fulfilling project for me. And I just love her designs, and she's doing amazing things.
Real nice.
But yeah, so we'll go ahead and keep going. And this was actually recent work. I don't think I've posted this particular photo anywhere yet.
Yeah.
This is actually a shoot that I just did post-COVID. I guess not post-COVID because we're still in a pandemic, but it's the first campaign I really photographed. And it was only myself, the makeup artist, and the model. It was like a team of 3 because, you know, COVID productions are getting so much smaller now, and I was able to work with this jewelry client remotely. They're based in Singapore. I'm not sure how they found me. I'm assuming definitely Instagram actually. And they like hired me to, you know, create some of their campaign imagery as well as some closer product shots. But we had, you know, a whole shot list going. They allowed me to kind of do my own creative vision. They allowed me to creative direct everything, which is always such an honor. But what I love about this image is that, you know, we had a whole shot list planned for the day, but we were photographing at the makeup artist's house, and in her backyard, she had this clothing line. And I was just so enthralled by the idea of a clothing line, because everyone around the world like has to dry their clothes, right? Yeah. It's a universal theme that really resonates with everyone. And I'm obsessed with, you know, universal kind of themes like that. And so I wanted to kind of put this together, and I love the way it came out. I couldn't have planned this image, you know, I could have, but it just unfolded so organically on the shoot day. And I love when that happens.
Oh, absolutely. You know, to talk about a little bit, you know, it's interesting. You said like, oh no, the shoot was actually at the makeup artist's house, you know, and this is her backyard. And
Yeah.
I do think that that is what we're seeing now, where people are trying to keep it as small as possible and locations as kind of collectively tight as possible. Do you see these things as a positive and negative, or are they just something to roll with?
I think it's something to roll with. I honestly, I'm so used to really small teams. All my teams that I work with, I don't really do big productions yet, you know, but right now all my teams are small and I love it that way. So I think following COVID regulations on set is not quite that hard, but I think it's just something we have to kind of do now, you know?
Yeah.
We got to roll with the punches.
No, it's something we have to do now. I would say myself, I actually think I've enjoyed it more. Like, because there is, on these bigger things, there's this feeling of like, there's all these people here, none of which need to be here. It's just kind of, where I'm someone who loves things that are smaller. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love
And
smaller crews. Yeah.
yeah. And I think those are the situations that allow you to suddenly say like, oh, look, there's a clothesline here. Can we just do it there? And then it can kind of move forward. You know?
Yeah.
No, that's really beautiful.
Let's keep going. Oh, so this is some more of my more jewelry focused shots. I just collected a bunch of images from my portfolio.
Yeah.
So they're not, that's so funny. But so these are some more jewelry focused shots. So if I'm going to say anything about these images, I'm talking about the image on the left. These are both for a jewelry brand based in California called Hati Chai. Some beautiful like gold jewelry. And so what I love about this image on the left here is I created it with the intention of keeping the model's face unshown. And I think that is because, you know, when you're looking at an image, the eyes always, you know, look to connect with eyes, right? That's like kind of the first place your eyes go in an image. So by covering the model's face, it really allows your eyes to wander throughout the image. First, it goes to the book, maybe her skin tone, but ultimately it lands on the focus of the gold jewelry and the way it's kind of sitting beautifully on her. And that was the whole entire, I think, purpose of the image, because I'm creating for, you know, a jewelry client. And so that was kind of my thought process behind that image. And same kind of idea with the image on the right, just kind of allowing the eyes to be closed. I use eyes closed a lot in my work. You'll definitely see that a lot.
Oh, it really works on the one on the left, I think. You know what I mean? Like these tiny little strands come to life in that image for sure.
Yeah, and her skin tone is so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is really beautiful.
I'm like chugging through. And feel free to ask me any questions and we can chat about other stuff too. But another key pillar that another key brand pillar or like theme that I use throughout my work is the use of shadow play. Whether I am doing still life or more fashion, lifestyle oriented stuff, I use shadows just like any other product or prop on set. A lot of photographers, when I ask them, what time of day do you love to shoot? They say, oh, you know, early sunset or early sunrise or sunset. But for me, I've always loved shooting in the middle of the day, which is so ironic because I live in Florida and it's literally so hot here. Like I end every shoot like drenched in sweat. It's just a thing. But I've always been attracted to, you know, the way I can manipulate harsh lighting. A lot of times by having the model close her eyes and just do different poses that would be flattering in harsh lighting, because not every pose works in harsh lighting. But, you know, just using shadows strategically to really, you know, I really incorporated that kind of theme throughout my work, no matter what I'm shooting. Like a lot of my work does have shadow play.
You know, it's really interesting, that idea of shooting at noon. And I have met a couple photographers recently who are like, and one is that Diane Billitson, who we talked about earlier, who was kind of saying, no, it's never in the morning, it's never in the evening, it's in the afternoon is when I want that. And I know how to control that and use that. You know, it does give your work this feeling, though, that a picture can be made at any time. And there is a kind of, casualness that it brings to it. Like they're all very well-crafted images, but it does have this feeling of like, oh, well, we just wanted to make that picture right there. Like it gives maybe like a, oh, I don't know, feels like spontaneous, or has a foot in like a snapshot that you would take just because the moment was real, not because you were trying to make a beautiful photo. But then, you know, obviously they're beautiful structured photos.
Yeah, very curated, but like authentic and kind of candid, and yeah.
Yeah. Did you evolve into that recently, or has it always been like something in your work?
I think it really stems from a place of me trying to do the most with literally the least, you know? Because does that make sense? Like I've never really paid for a studio rental. I've never relied on really high production value to make my work what it is. And because I've had to it forced me to use natural light really strategically. I think that's really what it stems from. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, it sounds like it came from like, what's that phrase? Like something is the mother of invention. Wait, what did you say?
I was just saying, I'm trying to be like kind of resourceful, a little bit scrappy, you know?
Yeah. Like this is what I have, and so this is what I'm going to use. And I'm not a prima donna who needs to make the entire crew wait until the sun goes down. You know, but I think it also keeps these things from feeling overly dramatic, you know? Like sunsets at times are overly dramatic and hit these high notes, you know, and sometimes that can feel cheesy, or it can feel like we're being manipulated, or we've seen this before. Where when it's noon, there's just something that it's like you can feel the sun on you or something.
For sure. And I definitely kind of resonate with what you're saying about like things being shot at sunset. Just because I think, you know, we've seen so many images like that, it's just like doesn't necessarily hit us the same way anymore. And when you're shooting, you just got to know your light basically and know how to use it strategically. I think that's what it comes, because every part of day gives you a different kind of tonality in light, you know? I don't know, but it is different. So I love clean, like bright light, so I can kind of manipulate it the way I want.
Yeah. Now, I mean, it doesn't look like you're lighting anything, but are you using reflectors? Like say in the picture on the left, are you doing something to fill in the shadows?
Nope. Nothing. This is all like real natural. Let me go back here. Okay. So this image, she was under a silk, or like I had diffused light because I wanted even light on her. But that's like really everything else you see, I think they were both in the shade. So that's what I love about harsh lighting too, is that if it's really bright sun, I can always just add a silk or add a diffuser and make it like a beautiful soft light with even light all around her. So it gives me everything I want, you know? Right. But I also have the option to just kind of remove that and like play with the shadows or just different things like that.
Right. Well, you are controlling the light though, then. If you're using silks, then you are like, all right, let's kind of make the good light here, as opposed to.
Yeah. But these three images, there's no like reflectors bouncing, nothing like that. Yeah.
Right. The other thing I'm taken by with your work is this idea of, it seems like you easily flow from like still life to you know, a fashion picture to like a portrait type of thing. Do you ever have like see these things different, or do you see them all as the same?
I really do consider myself an artist. I think at the end of the day, and I kind of don't want to confine myself by, I remember we were talking about this earlier. You were kind of asking me, do you define yourself as a wedding photographer, a commercial photographer? And, you know, I thought about it more, and I really, at the end of the day, I strive to be an artist, and I want to get hired because, you know, we're artists, but we're also like, we need to, you know, eat. I want to get hired to create the art that I love at the end of the day. And that's what I want for other people as well. And so I just create what feels good to me, what my eye really is attuned to, and I stick to that and I really hone into that. So for example, I could have done one shoot with shadow play or something and kind of like never done another shoot again, but I found that I really loved it. So I really did 5 more shoots like that, and now it's like my style.
Oh, it becomes a thing.
it
Yeah.
becomes a thing, and then people start hiring me for that thing. And I don't know if I'm going off topic here, but I allow myself to create kind of whatever is speaking to me, and then I kind of hone in on that. And I think that's how I'm really able to create a centralized vision, because I'm creating from a place of my why, like who I am as an artist, which is able to kind of bend and flow within and without genres.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense for sure. For sure.
That's
No, that's well stated.
Oh, this is another still life.
Oh yeah.
Quarantine little project. I kind of throw this in here for fun, but I literally just made this in my porch for fun.
That's beautiful.
Oh, this is another one of my faves. So while I love shooting models and all that good stuff, I also love photographing real people. I love photographing a lot of lifestyle scenes. I don't showcase that a lot on my Instagram, but if you maybe go on my website, in my archives, I do have a lot of lifestyle work, is what I'm like discovering as I look through my old work. But this is a group of women based out of South Florida. They do awesome, like, sound baths, wellness teachings, and they're just a group of women that, they're doing amazing things for the West Palm Beach community. So they hired me to create some branding visuals for them. And yeah, I just love these two images because they are real people, and I'm able on set to either facilitate maybe a more still moment and also one that brings organic emotion, because I think it's really important for the photographer to kind of steer the, the mood on set. Like, you're the driver, right? You have to create the vision and allow for the talent to express that emotion
Right.
that you're trying to create at the end of the day, if that makes sense.
Those two are great for that, where one is like this kind of artful construction, and then the other feels like it's them driving it, like the one on the right. What would be your process for this shoot? Like, are you involved in the wardrobe, or are you giving them guidance on what to show up? Because, like, say in this one, the wardrobe is such a big part of the whole thing, I would think,
Yeah. So honestly, my clients are so great, where I think they really understand who I am, and what I kind of, my style, that they really come prepared to kind of they're already showing up with the vision already locked in. But this was a client that was like that. I didn't have to do much creative direction because I trusted them. I knew that I was going to get this. But other clients, I am very hands-on with creative direction and like wardrobe and styling. But for this, they chose their own wardrobe. But obviously they chose it with intention, right? They chose it in the same color palette and all that good stuff. This was shot at sunrise though.
Oh, it was?
Yes, this was not midday. This was in the morning.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. So to me, it feels like there's a sense of play though. Like, how did you come about this like composition on the left? Did you have an idea for it, or was it like, oh, let's just mess around and see if you guys can like put yourselves together, and then it evolved?
No, for sure. This shot, we definitely did have a lot of like reference images, and we were like, let's try to create something like this. They were really awesome. We always try to create a mood board or something that we go off of for every shoot, especially when I'm working with a client. We have to make sure that our visions are aligned. So I think that this is actually a good example of like maybe a shot that we planned on the left, and then on the right is a shot that we didn't plan, but we loved, Yeah. So it's a beautiful mix of having a shot list, being prepared, creating the mood board, creating from reference, but then also allowing yourself space on set to really explore, to play, allow for authentic moments to unfold. And all the while you're the photographer steering that kind of day. You're crafting the experience, right?
Yeah. Hey, why don't we pause here? These two are so rich. Now, those in my class, your homework was to kind of come up with some questions. And rather than save these things for the end, why don't you try to bring some of these things up now, and then we'll kind of see where this goes. Rex, do you have a question?
Sure. I always have questions. Hi, Kayla. I'm Rex.
Hi, I want to see you. I want to see if I can see. Oh, I see you now. Cool.
Okay. Thanks for being with us and telling us your story. I find it incredibly interesting that you've just been doing this such a short while, and your work's amazing. But my question to you is, I was looking at your website earlier, and did you do that most of that yourself, or did you have a graphic designer help you out? Because it's really nice. I really like your website.
Thank you. So I purchased a theme from this place called Flow Themes. And they have so many awesome website templates. And what's great about it is that they have these flexible blocks that you can actually kind of craft it and organize the website in any way you want. So a lot of that is from the theme, but I honestly changed it so much from the original template that a lot of it is kind of driven by my design, but definitely leveraging their kind of template.
Thank you. And then I'll go ahead and ask one more question. I am a documentary drone photographer, so something a little different from what you do, but do you ever get asked for any type of drone work, or do you collaborate with any drone photographers?
I do not right now, but I think that's because a lot of my work is so driven by people. Like if I was like, maybe if I didn't shoot people, that's what kind of I'm known for. I do a lot of fashion that relies on like people. So, but if I didn't do that, like there's so many markets that would benefit from drone photography, like whether even with like weddings and stuff like that, they also need to have like drones on set. I don't know if that's something that you're interested in, but I haven't worked too much with it because, there's drone laws and all that good stuff that I'm like, I don't even want to mess with trying to fly a drone and not having a license and then getting in trouble, because that would happen to me,
Thank you, Kayla.
For sure.
Somebody else.
I can go. Hi, I don't have my video on. I'm Steph. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay. I'm a wedding photographer in the Bay, and I do some destination stuff too.
Cool.
Like tomorrow on Thursday, I'm planning like this huge styled shoot because it's very like you were saying, it's super important to do those to make sure that those are like, you want to post those because that's the client you want to attract. But I'm curious to know more about like your Instagram and like how you grew, because I use like a social media platform that helps me, because like now when I go on it, it's like I get probably 90% of my brides from Instagram, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, but then so like what makes you like feel the need to post things on Instagram and then feel the need to post not on Instagram but on your website kind of thing? Like,
sure.
Are you obsessed with making your Instagram perfect? Because like I'm so OCD about my Instagram that like I don't know. So I just wanted to get your input on all that.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually have a whole content strategy when it comes to the way that I disperse content and where, and that's something that I really go in depth in my course, but I am more than happy to let you in on all the trade secrets right here. So when it comes to Instagram, I actually have 2 Instagrams, right? I have a wedding Instagram that only speaks to my wedding clients. And I have my main Instagram, which is probably the one that you guys have all seen. And that is for my commercial work as well as my education for photographers. I have a lot of education in my Reels. If you go to my Reels tab, it's just full of educational resources there. And so I leverage different parts of the Instagram app to kind of speak to different people, which is unique. But I'm obsessed with curating my feed to attract the kind of client that I want to bring. So if I shoot an amazing project for a client, but the color tones do not match my feed, I won't post it.
That's me too. And it's like, I want to post like those really great photos because I do have really great photos, but if they don't match my aesthetic, I'm not going to post, because I feel like sometimes brides, like, since like I try to target the high end, like I feel like that's important for brides to like see how many followers you have, and as well as making your Instagram look perfect.
For sure. I don't think necessarily follower count is like the biggest, like I know very successful photographers who are making over 6 figures that have 2,000 followers or less, right? Follower count does not matter, but the way you position yourself on the platform matters. You need to be able to position yourself as an expert in whatever niche that you're trying to do. That's why eventually I will separate my websites to have a separate wedding website, a separate commercial website that is coming, because I'm so busy I haven't been able to work on it. But just know that if you are doing weddings and you're doing commercial work, you should probably split those, because you're speaking to 2 very different people.
Yeah.
Totally different people. But because I'll let you know a little bit of my thought process behind that as well, because I think this is super interesting. So I'm in Florida right now, and the market is very unique because I'm in Central Florida. There's not a lot of commercial work. That's why a lot of my clients that work with me commercially, they work with me remotely. I'm working for a fashion brand based in DC right now. Like, that's why I'm like, I'm not too stressed out about it right now. But when I move to LA, I know I need to get serious about it because they care there, you know?
Yeah.
They care.
It depends on where you are and who you're.
It depends on where you are. And since I'm going to be switching markets, I know that that's what I'm going to have to do. But in Florida, basically, I'm fine doing that because my brides love that I do that fashion work. They love seeing that. They hire me because of it. And the commercial clients that I work with are all remote. So they're kind of, they hire me for my vision, and that's kind of the end all be all. But, you know, as I transition into a new market, that's, the experience has to change for my client, right?
Yeah.
It has to like almost level up. That's like the next step.
So
but
that bridal, oh, sorry, keep going.
No, go ahead.
But that bridal shoot that you did, like with the real kind of like in the very beginning of the slides.
Yeah.
So like you obviously post that on your Instagram, but like, so for your target audience, are your brides like want that fashion editorial? Because like, here's the thing, like sometimes I post so much of my styled shoot, and then when I get a client, they see my Instagram and they're like, okay, well, she can make any photo look like that because I'm going to hire her, you know? But it's like on a real wedding, you get what you get, and you can't like, it's not, they have to realize like it's not a styled shoot. So it's like, did you post that because, well, first of all, you want to get into bridal magazines and whatever, but are you posting that too because that's the kind of bride you want to attract?
For sure. I think it's definitely both, but I also think knowing your ideal client is key, right? And knowing what they want, what they struggle with, what they wish for, what they want their wedding to look for. When I post on my Instagram, I'm definitely posting an ideal situation, but it's also our job as wedding photographers to educate our clients and to let them know how a wedding day actually goes and what happens. That's why you put those things in your contracts. That's why you communicate with them on the call. And it's you can help your bride. I know we're getting into wedding photography stuff, guys, but bear with us. But you can also help your bride craft moments that fit that high level aesthetic, because like they don't know that a Gucci perfume bottle really photographs well, you know, or that they need, exactly. So they don't know that they need a wooden hanger instead of the plastic hanger.
Yes, I bring the wooden hangers to every wedding because I'm just like,
exactly.
The plastic
so you can't. That's why it's your job to really educate your client, because they're hiring you for the ideal. So it's your job to almost train them to execute the ideal. You know, that's why it's so important. Your onboarding process pre-wedding, just like pre-production in a commercial shoot. It's the same thing when you approach wedding photography. If you want to do the luxury market, right? Because that's a very high-end market. That also I don't do barn weddings, right? I'm definitely more of a luxury photographer. And it's also, wedding photography is what I do for fun. Like, I'm not necessarily trying to be like the top wedding photographer. At the end of the day, I think fashion and commercial is what I'm going to end up being my home. But I love taking photos. So why not? You know, why not have that service, that Instagram, that website ready for someone who might want to hire me? I do this because I love it. So
So for your commercial shoots and fashion, like, okay, so you have a very distinct style, right? But like, do you ever get clients where they're like, I want you to photograph it, but I don't want a totally different style of editing?
For sure. Yeah. And I give it to them because
Yeah.
they're hiring me to fulfill their vision. But like I said, that's why on my website, I think it's up now. I have a whole separate tab for commissioned work. So
Mhm.
it kind of is that disclaimer that this was I was created to commission, like I was commissioned for this. So
Mhm.
it was for the client's vision. So it's just that understanding that, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to edit at whatever way they want because they're paying me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of editing, do you do most of your own optimization of your images, or do you outsource for that?
I do all of my editing. I've edited all of the work that you see here. As my business grows, I know that will change though.
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking I'm actually looking into it right now, especially before I move, to get a retoucher for sure, as well as outsourcing my wedding editing for when I do like long shoot days and long wedding days. I'm going to outsource all of that editing.
It makes such a difference. Like I started doing that and it's just like the biggest thing off my plate, you know. I have a really good one if you need.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, let's connect on that.
Yeah,
Let's chat later. But yeah, so right now I do my own editing because I think it's like I'm very specific about what I want. But at this point, I think I've optimized my presets enough to kind of hand it off to someone else. But I think it's really important for a photographer who's just starting off to do their own editing because it really defines your style. And then once you get to a place where you feel comfortable and firm in your color toning and all that stuff, then you can outsource it once you have like a good preset or something that is able to be outsourced because you have to have all the materials.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you don't have the general understanding of it, then you don't know how to tell someone to fix it.
Yeah. For sure. It's like if you can't do it yourself, you don't hire someone else to do it because you can't troubleshoot because you don't know what you're doing. That was like a business advice that I've received, and I'm like, that is so true.
Mm-hmm.
That's why right now I'm a solo entrepreneur. Like literally everything you see, every caption, every email that you get from me is me. But my business I need a team at this point. So it's nice to be at that place, but right now it's like I do it all. It's a lot.
I feel it.
It's crazy. I'm gonna go ahead and flip the slide so we have something else to look at, but we can keep chatting about whatever else.
You know, I'm wondering what's inspiring the move at this point. You know, you're moving to Los Angeles. Is it something personal or is it business wise or like what's driving that decision?
For sure. So that's actually such a great question. And I was actually planning on moving to LA pre-COVID. Obviously COVID hit and I was like, okay, I'm just going to stay in Orlando with my parents. It's fine. You know, this is just the reality of what everyone's facing. And during this time, during COVID, my business has grown more than it ever before. So it's been so game changer for me. But I think, and if I would have moved pre-COVID, I wouldn't have been ready to step into the commercial market of LA. What's so crazy is that during quarantine, I was connected with Apostrophe Reps. They're a photography agency based in LA and New York. And I just went through their entire 12-week program that they're like literally educating BIPOC photographers. And they did this whole program and it was so amazing. So now I'm connected with them. They're helping me, you know, bid on a couple jobs and get those things going. So that's, I think, the biggest thing that has really made this a for sure thing. Like, wow, I am moving to LA. I am going to do this. But it's always been my intention all along. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. Oh, so Apostrophe, Kelly? Is Kelly, what's her last name?
Kelly Mendez.
That's it. Yeah, no, because she used to be here in San Francisco. Like, I mean, she's been doing Apostrophe in different forms for a long time. No, she's great. She is a force of good. Absolutely.
Yeah, their entire team is great. So that actually just wrapped up a couple weeks ago. And so I just finished a round of portfolio reviews. They set up portfolio reviews for us. So we had that whole kind of, I had my own photography school experience, right? Yeah. So that was honestly so amazing to hear it from them, you know, because I've done a lot of self-education. I've invested in business education, but hearing how to like operate in the commercial industry as it is right now is super interesting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I think you'll be excited to work with a rep. Oh, I'm sorry, Cole, did you have a question?
Yeah, I actually had two if you have the time. So, I have the question that I came up with when we were in this talk, and I have the question I came up with before. So I'll start with a question I came up with in this talk. I'm really curious to like hear how you get or how you got connected with a group like Moodleer, because I'd heard with them, I'd heard about them a while back, and had been trying to get their products for like the past 3 months. It's a bit difficult, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm really curious how you kind of established that connection, and kind of if you had any recommendations for establishing those connections.
Oh, for sure. Honestly, guys, all of my connections that I've been able to make is through leveraging social media as a networking tool. Like I try to be like as real as you see me here speaking to you, I try to be as real as I'm speaking on Instagram, whether it be in my captions, the way I'm direct messaging someone. Most likely, if you message me on Instagram, I will send you a voice note and you will hear my voice, because that's how human I want to be with you on social media. So I actually followed Claire, who is the owner of Moudelier, and we've been, I guess, mutual follows for a really long time. And she was relaunching the course bundle this year, and she saw that I was doing a lot of educational content for photographers, and she saw my still life work. She was like, oh, this would be a great fit. And it totally was. Like, this is so fun for me to be able to create basically my one-on-one coaching sessions. I'm giving all of that information in a course, and I can disperse it to whoever wants it. So I love that idea of just being able to put education in so many different people's hands. But that's how we got connected. She DM'd me on Instagram. And we've just been, maybe I commented on a few of her photos, said something authentic, real. Like it was nothing fake, right? And then we hopped on a call, everything became official, and now we're launching this together.
Wow.
And let me, like, literally pretty much a lot of the things that you've seen as far as work-wise, my clients, they all come through leveraging social media, leveraging content marketing, and my content marketing strategy, which is like intense.
Mm-hmm. No, I find that really fascinating. And it's like, especially with, a kind of connection like that, it's just like at one point you see them, and the next it's, you're following each other. And then after that, it's, I've experienced that in the past. So I find it really fascinating that it works just as well with, even bigger groups, or probably even more than that. I suppose it's really the thought process of most that social media doesn't usually get you much in terms of connections. People, ignore DMs or what have you.
You'd be surprised.
Pretty
I answer all of my DMs.
Yeah. No, that's actually it's actually really interesting to know. So my second question was kind of regarding some of the lifestyle work you do, because often through what I do, which is I do like marketing work for a lot of different companies, as well as the still life that I do. And so I'm kind of curious your thoughts on, kind of working with companies like that, and, getting their vision right, and what their art director sees, while simultaneously, getting your own look out there, and making sure that you're guaranteeing that, and where you find that balance. Because I always find that an interesting question to ask photographers such as yourself, like where you find that balance.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of different ways to kind of approach that, but I think when I'm on set, I always try to fulfill the client's vision first. That's like my number one thing, but I'll do like a one for you, one for me kind of deal. Like if the client is flexible, right? It's like, depending on the scale of production you're in. If I'm in a high commercial set, that might not be the case. But if it's just, a client that is, maybe it's a smaller kind of thing, then usually I have a lot of creative freedom. So I think it's also depending on the scale of client that you're working for. And like, because on a bigger budget shoot, they're paying like a really heavy licensing fee. They have your time stretched out till like 12 p.m. at night. You do not have any room to kind of move, right? Unless that's on the shot list or whatever. So it just depends, I guess. But I'm super blessed in that a lot of my clients already hire me for my creative vision. So the only thing that I really have to worry about is maybe the tones don't fit what I'm doing, but that's totally fine. Does that make sense? I hope that answered your question. Let me turn on the light real quick because it's getting really dark in here.
No worries. No, I think it actually it does answer my question in a way, and I suppose it also brings new ones in the thought process of like, okay, how are you getting your question your clients? And in my mindset, I suppose there's kind of like the right way and the wrong way. The right way is, you show them your work, you kind of see what they're into. You get in touch with the art director, and they're kind of putting through your course or what have you, and eventually you're starting to work with them. But like in my experience, I've experienced probably just as often, personal recommendation gets me way further than it should. And then it becomes sometimes, where you're running into this thing where it's like, okay, let's see where my vision is in comparison to what their vision is of what this project is.
Right. It sounds like you're trying to figure out like who is your ideal client. It's kind of what you're saying.
No, that's actually a good part of this too. No, I think that's part of it too. But
because if a client is approaching you for something that you aren't good at, you are better serving the client and yourself by saying no to that job.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree.
And that actually goes into what I wanted to ask, since we're talking about contracts. In a different class, we're learning about the infamous contract. So has there ever been an instance where you read through a contract and saw something that you found sketchy or suspect, and you were like, no, maybe this job isn't for me?
Not personally, but that's just because I honestly just haven't had that case yet. But I've known of some sketchy things. Like I wish I had the verbiage right on me, but I don't. There's like some key terms that you should look out for in your contracts that you're like, if you see that, maybe, I don't know what they've necessarily taught you, so I don't want to teach anything that is, against that. But I personally have not, to answer your question.
Cool. Just wondering.
Which is a blessing, I think.
Yeah, hopefully you never have to go through that.
Hopefully no one here, right?
Right.
Interesting. Anyone else have one they want to share now? Casey's shrugging.
Well, I mean, not really. They kind of already answered the other questions that I had regarding like, what was it? Yeah, they kind of like went over the brands and everything. The only other question, which I think it just kind of varies, which is just like, how often are you shooting? Like, what is like, because I know you mentioned that you're editing like the past couple of days, but it's just kind of interesting to hear like other people's like workload and kind of how they're balancing it all.
Well, right now, I mean, I'm in a unique phase of my life where like I'm not really pressed to work right now. I mean, I am, and I'm working really like a lot. Right now, I'm like in the month of November, I'm not shooting at all. And it's been the best thing, because last month I did 5 shoots plus some in 1 week. And it was so exhausting. I was so drained. I was so burnt out by the end of it. So I just knew I'm not going to take any projects. I'm just going to push them all to December. And I'm bidding for a couple new jobs. And so we're just going to keep it all there. And this month I am just focusing on my course launch. And so I am working that's like a project in and of itself, because I am still editing, I'm still shooting, I'm still filming, but it's like a different, like I'm not shooting for a client necessarily. Does that answer your question? I think.
Yeah, pretty much. Kind of just finding a balance between like shooting and like editing, kind of just like knowing your limits also, I think is just
knowing your limits. And I think also, I don't know if you're accepting any like client jobs, but just having an idea in your head every single month of maybe a financial goal you would like to meet, dividing that by the number of clients you can realistically take on per month. And that kind of determines, the price per client, right? Does that make sense? I hope that's a very brief summarization of how you approach pricing, but like, you can only do so much. You're one human. You're exchanging time for money. So there's a cap on that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, that was good. Hey, why don't we get back to your PDF here?
For sure. Do you want me to chat about this image or just kind of keep rolling?
Yeah, well, how did this come about? Yeah.
This was commissioned for a creative kind of photography agency in New York. They're called H Collective. They've had a lot of renditions in the past, but they basically commissioned me to create some website visuals for them. So they wanted to capture youthful creatives going out and creating, taking photos, and so this was kind of my portrayal of my unique perspective on a normal everyday lifestyle moment, just shooting from that really upwards or, that unique angle. And it ended up being one of their favorite images, I think, just because of the composition. It really played well with website orientation, just knowing how your client is going to use the image at the final end result. This ended up being on their website for a really long time. This was like their cornerstone image on their website.
That's beautiful.
But yeah, that's the story behind this image. And I love the colors, the blues. It's all blues. You got that pop of pink. You won't find this on my feed, but it's actually one of my favorite images, and I believe it's on my website.
Yeah, the colors look different than your typical palette, you know what I mean? But it's, yeah.
Right. But also what's funny about color tones and just like palettes and like Instagram cohesive feeds, your feed is always evolving. So like if you scroll through my feed, I've had many different color palettes. Like it keeps on going. If you scroll down, I've had lots of like bright colors like this. And a lot of that came from the traveling I did. In 2019, I traveled to 12 different countries in 1 year. I was working, some I was, my own personal travels. But that reflected itself in the color tonality of my feed. I don't just do one color scheme, but right now my color palette is neutral. And so that's what I love right now. So as an artist, I allow myself to evolve in color tones and in industries. I let myself play, and I don't really give myself a lot of rules. And it works out.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And also, this is just kind of showing my last kind of little bit of fun kind of lifestyle work. I created this GIF recently, but this was an old project that I did. That was a test shoot. The one on the left was for a fashion campaign the fashion brand was called Odd Molly. They're based in Sweden. And they actually hired me to photograph in Tulum. We had this whole thing planned, and then COVID hit. So we ended up shooting it in West Palm Beach, Florida, which is where I used to live. And this shot specifically, we were going from location to location, and the model dropped the flowers. And I was like, that's perfect. That's it. And then it ended up being one of my favorite shots. So.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
And yeah, I think that's actually the end of my little port here. This is a very glimpse at my work. I think I could have put so many more images in here. If you want to look at more of my work, we can chat about it via Instagram DM. Always down.
The question I had is, you have some black and white work on your website that feels like film, and it feels like I think it's like a woman with no shirt on reading a newspaper or something like that.
Yeah, that was film.
Yeah, and it really feels like it had a foot in kind of an awareness of the history of photography. And I think that right now,
I love that style.
What's that?
I'm obsessed with that. So I recently did a darkroom class.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to develop and shoot black and white film, and I got to develop and process everything myself, and I just fell in love with it. Oh my gosh. And yeah, I'm really inspired by timelessness and portraiture, and just having like a timeless kind of theme, whether that be playing on universal themes or just portraiture, just like portraiture in and of itself is timeless. But yes, continue what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, did that work? I was just wondering, was that something that you were doing, just because you love photography with no commercial concern at all? Or was it something that you were like, well, these will look like fashion and it can fit into my general, like where did that work come from?
So that was that's more recent work. Like I just took that class kind of during COVID. It was actually a class that was going on during COVID. It was in person too. Florida's wild, guys. And I just created that to create. There was no commercial intent. There was just, I've worked with my friend. She's a friend, but she's also is a gorgeous model. And
Yeah.
I was just like, hey, can I come over? I just got this black and white film. It was actually the first time I used black and white film. Is that true? I think so. So I was like, okay, these could all just not work out. But they worked out. So I'm glad I got the right film speed. So, and my set, because I didn't have a light meter.
It had that feeling. That's, it's funny you bring this up, because it had that feeling of what it's like when you're first trying out a film camera. It had that kind of sense of wonder, but also sense of primitiveness, and then the wow factor of like, oh look, we got something. But then it was obviously like a model in a situation, and the light was beautiful. Yeah, and it had, and I was like, oh, maybe she took those in college or something like that, because it was that.
Yeah, I'm almost doing the reverse, right?
Yeah.
Like I've done work for clients, but now I'm really slowing down. I'm like, okay, let me try to learn about more technical, maybe classic stuff, but do it in a way that's still like authentic to me and my vision.
Yeah, no, I liked that work a lot.
I love that. Like I wish I would get paid to do that kind of stuff. Not yet. Maybe later.
Oh, well, I think that there's always, we have this kind of thing we discuss in this class and in other classes, that there's the work we do, and then there's the thing that's like our hobby, or the thing that is, kind of occupying ourselves, that we can be very free in and not worry about if it's great or not. And usually that sometimes is the path to follow eventually. And yeah, that black and white work felt like that to me,
Definitely personal work. Like I think, yeah, just going out and creating for no insane strategic commercial intent or anything like that is always sometimes when I produce the work that I'm the most proud of.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So now, all that said, though, you are very driven, and you are very a planner, it seems like, and you're not just kind of like going with the flow. It seems like you are a kind of attack and conquer, type of or something like that. Where do you think?
Go ahead.
Would that have been something? Is that just in you, and that would have applied to anything you do?
So I definitely think it's my personality type. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Enneagram, but I'm an Enneagram type 3. And an Enneagram type 3, they're very driven by like goals, achievement, success. Is like we drive to feel like we need to feel valued. That's like our thing. Everyone has one. I don't feel bad about exposing myself. But yeah, so that's just my personality type. I feel like whatever I don't want to toot my own horn, but I am very driven. And I think it comes from maybe my family background, wanting to prove my family and like do everything. I come from an immigrant family, right? So there's always that they poured so much trying to get us here. So we have to, fulfill that American dream. And so that's kind of, I think, really did kick my butt into high gear when I was in college. And I was like, okay, I have to pick a degree. Chose chemistry because I was good at it, and I work hard. So obviously, if you work hard, you're going to be successful at kind of whatever you do. And then I ignored that kind of artistic part of my life, and then I kind of allowed it to just take over. And now I'm kind of applying that same analytical brain that I had in chemistry to my business and like the way that I run my business. So I'm able to kind of turn on my more artistic side and my business mind, because at the end of the day, we are artists, but we are also business owners, and we need to like kind of embody those roles equally. If we want to, be a professional photographer, you don't have to. It's a beautiful hobby. It's a beautiful just way to express yourself. I'm not saying that that's the only way that photography can exist in your life, but if you choose to, that is the reality.
Yeah, no, and harder now than ever. For sure.
More opportunity now than ever, though, I would say.
Yeah. Certain doors have closed and certain new doors have opened. For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
You bring up your parents, and one thing I see as a teacher at an art school is like students do say like, well, look, I really like this, but, you know, do I have a future in this? My parents think I should do something more, you know, traditional. And a lot of times we get people here at this school who did do something traditional and then are going to
Yeah.
like get a degree here. How has, if I can ask, if you're comfortable
Yeah.
talking about it, how has it been navigating that in your family?
So at first, when I was starting out in photography, my family did not take me seriously. They were like, okay, Kayla, it's a great hobby. Good for you. You better still get a good job, because, you know, they're always trying to look out for your best interests, and they just want to make sure that you're okay financially, and, you know, you're able to support yourself and all that good stuff. But once the opportunities started coming in and they saw that I was getting like clients and I was working, they are 100% supportive now. But they weren't at the beginning. So that's just the reality. And I worked really hard to kind of shift their mindset about this whole creative industry. I blow my mom's mind every single day. She's like, you did what on Zoom? Like, you're doing what? And yeah, my dad's always, I think I get an entrepreneurial drive from him as well. So it all comes together. My grandparents, on the other hand, do not understand what I do. My grandma still calls me Dr. Kayla, and that's just the thing.
Oh yeah.
You know?
No, that's good. That's good. You know what I wanted you to do before we let you go is, can you bring up your Instagram, even though it's Instagram on a you know, computer versus, yeah, because I do, you know, you've mentioned it so many times, and it is such, like, I do think you really use it well as a way to, like, meeting you on Zoom this morning or on the phone the other day was exactly like meeting the person who is on Instagram. Like, you use social media to allow people to know you and appreciate the photography, you know. And I just thought it'd be interesting to take a look at that.
For sure. I'm working to pull it up right now. Well, that's really great to hear. You know, I always try to be the same online as I am in real life. That's my goal. Here we go. So this is my,
like, so many people now like are doing the total opposite. They're like trying to put on a face on Instagram rather than, like, they're trying to like hide the real themselves. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Oh, for sure. I think,
and it's sad.
It's so sad. But people, it's so funny. It's sad, but like, just by being yourself on social media, if you're into it, you're able to build a personal brand, and people will hire you because they feel like they already know you. And you've already portrayed yourself so well, authentically online. You're creating engaging content. You're showing up on Instagram stories. They're showing your face. So by the time they inquire, they already feel so comfortable and so confident that you can fulfill their vision. And that is what mainly I do this for. I strive to use Instagram as kind of, I really do try to offer valuable content, whether it's for the photographer that's following me or, you know, a client that could be following me. And I just strive to just share my story, and answer questions, and, you know, just be authentic.
Yeah.
Do you talk a lot on your stories?
That is something that I just started doing, and
it stresses me out, but I know I need to do it.
you know, do whatever you feel comfortable with. There's so many different ways to be a communicator online. They have captions that you can write something on your stories and then post it. But showing your face does create that one-on-one connection that nothing else really can beat. Especially in the age where we're all a little socially distant. I think it's a super powerful tool if you're comfortable. And I think I wasn't comfortable with it, and now I'm getting more comfortable. And it takes me still like 50 retakes. Do not let the final post product fool you. It took me many tries.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I would not have guessed that. It has a sense of authenticity, and I'm just doing this right now, and it's very immediate. And
I don't script it, but if I say something wrong, I'm going to redo it.
Yeah. No, that's great. Can you scroll down a little bit and we can
Sure. Oh, so these are the Mudelier products for still life and different stuff like that. I just want to showcase them because they're so beautiful, and I haven't found anything quite like it on the market. So I'm just like, this could be a really good tool. And then you also see my use of shadow play. So just like a consistent theme. And that's like the title slide for
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
my course. And I think that's just the course list.
Right.
Yeah, but I'll keep sliding down. So one of the feedbacks that I got from my portfolio reviews that I've gotten on my own portfolio was that they wanted to see more of my more expressions. So I tried to kind of, see how I can incorporate that more on my Instagram feed, which is why I posted the GIF that's on my portfolio. I'm like, okay, let me put a high emotion kind of thing. But what's funny is that I do have a lot of that type of work. It's just in my archives. So it's just like being selective about what I choose to share to who. That was just a kind of a comment that I wanted to throw in there because maybe that could benefit someone.
Did that criticism come from the commercial arena?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it depends on what marketplace you're trying to speak to. And I understand that. And so I didn't take it too personally or whatever. I'm like,
yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, yeah, like the commercial jobs, the ad jobs, they want to know you can make someone laugh and make them very happy,
So that was a good note. And that was actually from Kelly. And so I was like, okay, this is serious.
Yeah, no, she knows her work. I remember showing my book to her when she first started. She was trying to get to know photographers that were around. And yeah, no, she's always had a vision for that, for what she wanted to make that group. No, I think it'll be rewarding for you for sure.
Yeah. Oh, this is some more of my black and white work.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for fun. Just for fun.
Yeah, I really love both of those, the flower and the woman. And I just thought it was like, here's the old school New York Times newspaper where we never see anyone holding a newspaper. And
I mean,
I like, yeah, and I thought it just did so much with so little and had that feeling of like, oh, we just tried it,
This is another one that I'm super proud of because I don't shoot many men out of the wedding context or the couples context. So this is actually my really good friend. We shoot together all the time. And he has such an old school vibe that I was like, oh, he'd be perfect to shoot black and white film on. And so we just did this for fun. And look at that smoke. I'm just so stoked about it.
That is great. Who was the teacher? Like, I'm just curious, the darkroom teacher.
Okay. Oh man. Oh, John Baker.
Is he known for anything in particular? Is he like
He's a black and white photographer.
Right.
For sure. He only does black and white film and he teaches at the Crealdi Art School in Florida. That's the exact, nothing major. It's like a super small art school. I actually went there as a kid too. So it's all coming full circle. But he just does, I don't think he's known necessarily for anything particular that you might have seen, but he's done galleries and stuff. He's super cool.
Right.
But yeah.
Nice. And they had a darkroom there.
Yes, they have a darkroom there.
Right. Wow.
Just some more. I'm just going to keep scrolling. Feel free if you guys have any questions.
Yeah, I have another thing here. So go down a little bit up, I guess. Let's see. I can't find it. Go down a little more. It's two brides in a room far away. Yeah, that.
That?
Yeah. So loved that one for all the simplicity and all the drama of the wardrobe and just the
drama.
Yeah. What is this? How did this come about? Is this something you did for you?
Yeah. So this was a portfolio building shoot that I did because I wanted to do, it was kind of like my formal entry into the wedding world in my mind, where I finally felt that I created a shoot that I felt could live in my commercial, on my Instagram and also my wedding Instagram. It bridged both gaps because it was 100% my vision. And then I realized that I really love bridal fashion. And so this was a shoot that I planned and I creative directed myself. So
that is beautiful. And to me, what I like about it is this is one of these examples of something that could live in any genre. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Yeah, that is beautiful. So that is a purely natural light image.
Yep. And I think I don't think I did anything crazy. I love shooting at this location. I've shot there many, many times. And I think I understood the light. how the light would go, and it's just so beautiful.
Right.
And you can also see that in my captions, I'm speaking to like a photographer who's following me, right? So, and I try to create like engaging content. So like my clients can see my work, they trust me. And then also a lot of photographers follow me, and I know that, and they're always super inspired. So I try to like help them as much as I can, you know? So that's kind of how I balance that kind of both roles there.
What inspired that? Yeah, like I saw that you said like calling young photographers, I am here for you, or something like that in that post. What inspired that? Like, do you truly like teaching, or was it something that you thought would help you like diversify your brand, or what is the idea behind that kind of educational aspect?
For sure. And, you know, I've even, you know, been thinking about like, okay, why am I even doing this? But I think it's just like my nature. When I was a chemist, I was also a chemistry tutor. When I also was a writing tutor, I've taught English. That's literally what I did in India for 2 months. I taught English.
Yeah.
So I definitely have this drive to connect with people in whatever way. And people are so inspired by my work, and that all I want to do is just help you see that this is so possible for you, that if I can do it, then there's 100% possibility that you can accomplish it too. Like that just lights me up. And because I know that's my why, I'm like, okay, then this is something that I feel comfortable doing and offering. Because a lot of photographers get so big, but they never stop and, you know, turn around and help the person behind them that's running behind them, because it is a formally really competitive market. But my mindset is, I have an abundance mindset, right? Like I believe that there's so much opportunity out there for everyone. There's enough clients out there for everyone. So that doesn't bother me. Like I want to help you. So that's kind of my why I started doing that. And then, you know, it's been my kind of quarantine project. I've been doing a lot more of that, and it's really evolved into something that I'm really proud of.
No, that's well stated. What's the, you know, like, before I taught and I just worked commercially, the worst day was when I didn't have a shoot and had to figure out how to like do something for move the ball forward, and I did not have a plan. And what is your darkest day? You know what I mean?
Ooh, oh God. So my darkest day, like, can you rephrase that in a different way so I can
Yeah,
answer?
like maybe the way to phrase it is like to me, it looks like you enjoy having a lot of things going on, you know, and from the conversation we had on the phone, you were like, well, look, if I'm doing the still life things, when the wedding industry is impacted, I have something to pivot to. And it seems like you've created a situation for yourself where, well, okay, we could be doing a portfolio review, or we could be making photographs, or I could be working on a class. And I'm wondering what's like the biggest challenge, you know what I mean? Or what is the thing that is you'd be trying to avoid or something? You know?
Honestly, the bummer thing that like the thing I always get bummed by is when clients like aren't willing to pay my prices. Like they don't. That's like the most, and I think, you know, as I'm talking and I'm being super candid with you guys, I think it just comes from a place of, you know, that Enneagram 3, I want to feel valued, and to put a price tag on your work is a very, there's a strategic way that my prices are set. They're based in, you know, strategy, but like you're putting a price tag on, you know, you physically showing up to a location and lending your vision to someone else. And so for clients to say like, you're too expensive, that's like, that hits me. But I do a lot of like, make sure that my, you know, my mindset is good. And I'm like, it's okay if they can't do it. I know someone else will. So you just kind of have to train yourself to, you know, keep going. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But that's like my hardest thing. Or when a client is unhappy with something, that always hurts. Yeah, you know, you try to do your best, but there are clients that aren't going to be necessarily 100% happy with everything you do. You just try your best.
Absolutely, always. And things could be very polarized, where you thought you hit it out of the park and it wasn't what they were expecting, you know, those things, for sure. I think we should let you go, but let's open up to the students here. This was a great talk and went in lots of different directions that I thoroughly enjoyed. Let's see if you have other questions here before we let Kayla move on. Randy, did you have anything?
I don't necessarily have a question, but I just had a comment, and I just want to say, Kayla, that your honesty gives you a lot of credibility. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that was a nice statement.
That means a lot. That means a lot. I don't try to put on a front or anything.
Yeah, no, I think it goes far, and I think it is refreshing.
Let me stop my share.
You have something, Anna?
Connect.
Yeah, I did actually. I noticed that you had a few things about like building your portfolio. And I was wondering, I guess, are you someone who tends to go towards like an online portfolio, printed portfolio, or both? Like, what do you bring to clients? And like, what do you find that like clients prefer?
Well, right now, everything is online.
Yeah.
Nothing is really printed. I mean, I think some e-promos are still being sent out and mailed out, but they're more creative in nature now. So I think if your portfolio is going to change hopefully so much within the next couple of months that to print something would just be too much cost up front. That's my analytical brain going. So I would rather do an online PDF, meet with my client via Zoom, present it to them. And if I did a shoot last weekend, I could just put it in real quick, you know? So I say online all the way. And the client is going to check your Instagram 100% before they hire you. So making sure that's popping. Did that answer your question?
Oh yeah, totally. Thank you.
Cool.
When you say client, I guess you would mean also like in commercial things, it could be an art director. And then
Yes.
in your wedding thing, it could be someone who has never looked at anything commercial at all and is just trying to see, you know, who doesn't really know photography, but they know what they like.
Yes, it's a very different conversation. Those two clients are very different. They need to be spoken to so differently. But it's honestly so refreshing to have both in my life that I can speak to. If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. No, I would think so, for sure. For sure. Let's see, my class, and then outside of my class, does anyone else have anything they want to bring up? Renee, did you have anything you wanted to discuss?
I don't have anything that all of my questions were actually asked and actually more than answered, Kayla. This has been actually pretty incredible listening to you. And I'm curious, are you Filipino?
Yes, I am. I'm half.
Yes, queen, me too. I've like the whole time I'm like, I don't know if I can ask this, but I'm like, I feel like she's a sister, man. So that's amazing. I'm so impressed with like how enterprising you are and how you have just kind of keep reinventing yourself. I've been like I've been very silent because I've been literally hanging on every word. Anybody in this chat who knows me knows that it's like you gotta pay me to shut up. So I really do appreciate you coming today and I'm actually gonna be in touch if that's okay. So
100%. I would love nothing more. Seriously, I thrive on that.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much, really.
Thank you. Wow, that was very kind.
Very nice.
I'm so serious, really.
And when you see Renee's work, you'll realize how very different it is from your own, Kayla.
I'm about it. Let's do it. That's so refreshing.
I'll message you and
No, these guys are all great. Everybody's deep into their own esoteric little thing here, for sure.
Were you, so I have the same like kind of story. Like I went to University of Oregon and my freshman year roommate had a camera and that's like how I got into it. And then like I totally get with your whole parent, I feel like I'm relating to you because it's like very similar. Did you teach yourself everything? Were you self-taught?
100% self-taught as far as photography goes. YouTube University was my jam. The only thing I did invest in is business education. Like I invested in business mentors, masterminds, which I don't even know if you guys know what that is, but just like think tanks kind of. And those just really gave me the mindset that I needed to approach my business, because I think so many artists sometimes can get bummed down by maybe like a starving artist mentality, or just, you know, that kind of discouragement. And by educating myself in that way and filling that like gap in my knowledge, I was able to kind of be where I am today. But as far as photography goes, I am 100% self-taught.
So, okay, so if you like were in high school and you knew where you would be right now, like if you knew you were going to be a photographer, like if you did,
yes.
Like, would you do your path differently? Like, would you have still gotten your degree in biochem, or would you, or whatever that smart major is, or would you like, or would you be like, oh, I want to go to photography school, or would you want to be like, I want to self-teach and maybe get my business degree, like to learn how, or maybe graphic design to help your business? Like what? Sorry, my text, I don't know how to put that off.
No, you're good. Story of my life.
Yeah. What would you do differently?
Well, I think that's like such an always hard question, because, you know, you can't do life differently. That's just
totally. But if there was like a high school girl right now and she wanted to be a photographer, what steps would you tell her to do?
I would say, well, you have to listen to if you're a kid, I always say listen to your parents, because, you know, they're paying for you to eat every day. Be respectful, but also like try everything, taste everything. If you want to be a photographer, do it. Like, that's my thing. It's like, do as many things as you can, taste everything. If I was younger and I knew kind of, I would have gone to photography school, heck yeah. Or I would have just, you know, done it. I don't know if I could have been where I am today if, you know, not everything has lined up, but I would have loved to go to like an art school. I would have loved that. So you guys are super, super lucky and that you're here. So I think that answered your question. I'm not sure. It's such a hard question to answer.
No, totally. I think it's because like I'm in school, but there's so many like wedding photographers who are super self-taught, and it's like I feel like having the school, I have the advantage, you know, because I've learned a lot, but two, it's like people are like, whoa, you're in school to be a wedding photographer. So it's just like I like to hear, like I like to ask that question, because it's like a lot of people in my industry are moms who picked up a camera when their kid was born, and now so like they do it on the side. So it's just like, because I'm 23, so I'm your age too, so it's just like very interesting to like hear what you would have to say.
Well, you have this little app on your phone. It's called Instagram, and it literally gives you like the keys to the world. So do what you can with that, and you don't have to worry about like if anything else, like just, hone in on that, see what you can get through that. Like the connections will come, the work will come. It's just where you are right now, you know, like you can be in school, you can be not in school. There is no wrong path in your life. It's just whatever is next.
Totally.
And every person's journey into photography is so different. And that's what I love about this industry. It's like, you can do this through school, you can do this not through school. Just do what works for you, and don't compare your journey to anyone else's.
Do you find yourself comparing your work to others, or because I feel like that's a thing that all of us photographers do, and it's like, especially, you know, with the industry that we're in, it's
with Instagram too, it's really hard.
So hard. Some photographers are like, I don't follow any photographers anymore, just because it is so hard not to compare, and you get let down. And I'm like, sometimes I do, but like the other times I'm like, no, like I love seeing their work and see how much they're growing, but it can be like hard sometimes.
Right. And that's kind of, I think, you know, understanding your mindset, especially since you are like, you do want to run a full like wedding business and a wedding photography business. Your mindset is going to be the number one thing that you need to train, basically to run your business, because you're going to have so many highs and lows as an artist, as a business owner, because I have those days too. But I have to know, like, if I'm super drained out from, you know, looking at this really successful repped photographer in New York who's been doing this for maybe 5 more years than me, then I didn't know, you know, and they're also living in New York. Like, wow, lucky. And it's just like, I have to know that, okay, maybe I should put them on mute right now and get some space. But then also like you can mute them, like that's fine. But also when you need inspiration, you can kind of, you know, come out of your shell again, but just taking space when you need it. And then also understanding that abundance mindset, I think, is the number one thing. You have to keep training that and reinstating that and combating your negative thoughts with like affirmations for yourself, because like that's literally what it's gonna take.
Yeah,
Oh, I totally support that. Yeah, you know, you have to change. Yeah,
you have to change the mental narrative that's going on in your head, because your mind will deceive you. Yeah.
Kayla, can you speak to the masterminds real quick?
So the business mastermind that I did was actually last year. It was entering 2020. So it was like right before we were entering this year, and we were just so hyped on 2020 vision. We were like, 2020 is going to be the best year of our lives. And you know what? It wasn't, but also my business grew more than it ever has in any other year. And I just moved to Orlando, Florida, because I was down south, and I did this mastermind, and it was in Orlando or Tampa, just the more central Florida location. And maybe 5, or maybe I'll say 4 of those people in those masterminds, in that mastermind group, became my client.
Oh, wow.
And so that's, I think, once you get to that, and it was a very affordable mastermind. Some masterminds can be very exorbitant in cost. And depending on where you're at in your business, they can be a beautiful investment at the time, especially if you're more advanced, because most likely you will gain clients from your mastermind. You will gain knowledge. It's just, you gain a lot of networking. It's a great networking opportunity. And there's so many different types of masterminds. You just have to make sure that the person who's orchestrating the mastermind is someone that has done or is where you want to be in the future. I think that's a big key. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Kayla. I wanted to make a comment, and I think you probably already know this already, but you are an incredible communicator. And I think no matter what industry you're in today, we first sell ourselves. And I see so many people that are technically sound, and you can say hello to them, they're scared. And that is, you're on the other end of the scale. We feel your positive energy. So that is an incredible skill set. So thank you for being here, Kayla. You inspire me. I work in the golden hour a lot, and I work with ND filters a lot. And now I want to pull that ND filter off in the middle of the day with my drones and see what happens. So thank you for that, Kayla.
Oh my gosh, you are too kind. Wow, 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 wow. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was beautiful, Rex. He does make the most of the golden hour, though. Absolutely. He has made it.
These filters are great.
Yeah, there are no rules. There are no rules when you can take a good photo. Anybody else? I think we should say goodbye. Let you get back to your day. Thank you. I know it's late there. Thanks for doing this and shifting this here. So you imagine a move to LA like in the summer, in the spring, anything?
Hopefully February 2021.
Oh, seriously?
Yes, very, very soon. But we're looking at another lockdown there, so it's going to be interesting. So everything is flexible right now, but I'm really pushing to start getting out there and, you know, being on the ground, doing test shoots and all that stuff. That's my first priority when I get there. Hopefully, I think small production should be okay. So we'll see. But everything's I'm flexible. You know, we're open to change. So
for sure. Hey, you were a joy. Thank you for this. It was inspiring, it was motivating, and it's exciting to see how affected the students were by having you here as well. So thank you. This was wonderful.